I'm Carson Black. Welcome to another episode of Zero Fucks Given, joined by Krista DeLuca and Freddie Brick. And we're going to start with a big announcement, right? We promised this. We said we're going to bring you Fail and Set Sail, Pale Fucking Ale. And here it is.
There it fucking is.
They deliver.
Yeah, now here's the thing. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and you're not watching the video version, you're missing out. But so I'll have to describe this. It's kind of a pirate giving two middle fingers. He's got some ass crack showing. He's on a boat, and underneath the waves are the underwater LPs. So basically, this sends the message that if you can't smash and grab, then you should just go ahead and fail and set sail.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't yet had a chance to buy one of these splendid brews, they're going to be retailing for $68.42.
Well, I was thinking 53, as in down 53% in October 2008, but maybe I'm wrong. But here's the reality, though.
Clever.
In all honesty, we can't sell these, and it was a big deal getting these here to Texas because, the state line issue. So
it was a very big deal.
It was a very big deal. So I got to ask you, Krista, you were the one who arranged it.
I did.
Did it make you feel closer to your Italian heritage to figure out how to smuggle alcohol across state lines?
Yes, it did, Carson. I did really feel closer to my Italian.
Krista Capone.
It wasn't easy actually, and I thought maybe there'd be a distributor in Texas to customize the labels like that, but no.
But there wasn't. And look, for those of you who can't taste it, it's actually fantastic. Not that Smash and Grab wasn't good, but this has tastes of bitterness. You get a real kind of in the back of the throat, like a kind of kick of leverage, I find, is in there. And
well, it's highly concentrated. Over concentration.
It is.
Right?
It's a 7% alcohol. It's more than recommended concentration.
It exceeds the concentration limits, does it not?
Yeah, and so it does hit all those fine notes. It's excellent. So anyone who wants can swing by and pick up a Fail and Set Sail Pale Ale.
Yeah, and just do it. Do it soon, because there's counterparty risk. We don't know if we can keep getting these things. So do it while you can.
Anyway, so yeah, this has been a project that we've been working on. Chris did an excellent job finding the brewery.
Yes.
And the smuggling route.
And shout out to our colleague who lugged these fucking things. So yeah, it was excellent work. That's very tasty. And we were able to order these in a minimum quantity of what, 100?
A little bit more than that.
So we didn't even have to buy a brewery.
No.
Yeah, again, if you can solve the state line issue, then it's
California
it's not
came
hard to do
through
this.
for us.
California came through for us. Something you don't hear a lot of on the podcast.
Well,
I know.
All the good shit is leaving California to come to Texas.
That's true. That's another way to look at it. Yeah.
Cool. Well, so anyway, this is fun. So I came back to the office, and this was a surprise, and a positive surprise. And another one was we now have our summer interns here, and you spent the week with them.
Yeah.
You guys both did. So
Yep.
Is that good?
It's been really good.
Yeah. It has been.
Who's your favorite? I'm joking. So we have 4 interns. They're doing an excellent job. Look, a few years back we were thinking maybe we'd can the intern program because some interns are more equal than others, it turns out. The ones we have at the moment have been really inquisitive and been really helpful.
Smart.
On a couple projects we're working on. We did have one intern who really, I guess, not only made me feel inadequate about my lack of private jet travel, but he didn't really want to do the things we asked him to do, right?
Yeah. I mean, nothing.
There was that one particular story where you, what did you ask him to do that you refused?
I was testing one of our researchers were out like away in an island, and we gave him one of those phones that those big bulky.
First of all, it wasn't that bulky, and second of all, it was a sea level guy who was fucking
Sorry.
pissed. That I was like, well, you're gonna be in the middle of the ocean, like you're sea level, like you need to bring.
I mean, there's like 2 parts to it.
You need
so
to
it's
bring
like,
a sat phone with
he's
you.
like, hello. Yeah. So I mean, I was like, who the hell? I'm like, I'm glad that this is not me. So I needed someone to help me test it out. I asked the guy, this intern, to help me, and
Because you need line of sight to the satellite. You
yeah,
can't do it
you
on
can't do
site.
it. I'm sorry.
You weren't just fucking with him.
I was not just fucking with, not this time. But yeah, like, and so he's like, I'm not doing that. What if someone sees me? I would look absolutely ridiculous. I'm like, dude, you don't even know anybody here. You've been here for 4 days. He's like, you would be surprised how many friends I have. I'm like, he was dead serious. He would say stupid shit all the time.
He was from the East Coast, and we were in San Francisco. Like,
I
yeah, he'd been there 4
know.
days in San Francisco.
I mean, at that
Staying
point,
in East Bay.
yeah, I
right?
mean,
like,
I think-
bastion of fucking coolness.
At that point, like,
I
you
lived
know,
in the East Bay.
we
Well, Krista, you were always bridge and tunnel crowd, right?
Shut
You were
up.
always bridge and
Go
tunnel.
Oakland!
well, at that point, like, to be fair, we'd been there like a combined like 9 years. I don't think we had like 4 friends between us either. So
I know.
like, this guy might have just been less antisocial than us.
He's like, I'm not gonna do that. That would look so stupid.
Yeah, now, he was younger. I mean, to
Yeah.
be fair, he was,
was-
kind of a recent high school graduate.
Yeah.
You know, did it as a favor for somebody I knew, it was his father. But, yeah, the really freaky part was when he'd like run up to me and show me like the sexts he was just receiving from like his girls he went to high school with, and I'm just like, bro,
Carson's like, I
come
cannot
on,
see.
hey, dude, like, first of all, not until we're in international waters. Like,
It's all right. There was a time he showed me this picture, and he's like, "Yeah, these are my sisters." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know, why are you showing me?" He's like,
God.
"Everyone thinks my sisters are hot." I'm like, "God, this
Jesus.
just got weirder."
Yeah.
And this was before Trump
before-
thought his own
before
daughter was
Trump
hot.
like grabbing Ivanka's
Yeah.
ass. Yeah.
I didn't know what to say to that. Like,
Yeah, that was
I gotta
kinda
tell you,
weird.
buddy, I disagree. Or like,
He even
yeah, your sisters
asked
are
me, he's
really
like,
hot.
is my sister not the hottest thing?
Jesus.
Super
That's,
creepy.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, these were full sisters. They weren't like,
No.
step-sisters or, like...
Whoa, which makes it better.
I don't know, like, I've seen, a lot of, like, porn clips with, like, step-brother bang step-sister, like, so I assume that that's actually socially acceptable, but, like, the full, sibling thing is, blood siblings, clearly not acceptable.
No, if it was a cousin, it's fine.
Hey, now you're going back to your Italian roots again.
I was like, I did have that second cousin.
Who says that those are the roots as opposed to the branches?
Yeah, the deformed leaves at the end of the branches. Oh, anyways. Well, speaking of which, how was Vietnam?
Yeah, it was a great trip. Yeah, I was only in Saigon, but a lot of energy in that city. People are actually, they seem, so my medium of comparison is always China. So I lived all those years there, felt that despite the fact that I have a lot of friends who are Chinese, a lot of issues in that society, especially lack of empathy and really just people not giving a fuck if some random person walking down the street is suddenly, smushed by like a piano falling out. They wouldn't really give a fuck, just, oh, well, that sucks. Vietnam did not seem like that. The people seemed to be a lot more connected to others. They, kind of yield. They seem to understand that, you can't all be racing for, the same intersection at the same time if you actually want to get there. So maybe that's a small thing. Maybe it's rose-colored glasses, but yeah, that was really good. But net, I feel like this, and maybe I'm telling myself what I want to hear, but I feel like this is an excellent time for us to set up there. There's a lot of Asian capital in there in the public markets from Korea, Japan, Taiwan, mainland China, but there's very little at this moment Western capital in Vietnam. And so I was told that we're, I think, the first American hedge fund to open an office there. So
that would make us the largest Vietnamese hedge fund based in Austin.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Even though we have 0 AUM since we haven't raised the fund yet, but
Okay.
whatever.
I still think we should, you know what we should do as well? Like, we should give ourselves, like, those hedge fund awards in Vietnam. Like, like you get every year, they email you and they're like, hey, for like $10,000, you can award yourself this. I think Kerrisdale might have won a few of those awards.
Well, it reminds me, like, the airlines always used to do that. Like, every airline used to make up its own customer service awards, like the Freddies. Seriously, it was like Continental always gave itself the Freddy Award.
Oh, really?
I think, like, for best customer service,
Huh.
between Continental and Continental. Yeah, it was like, I remember, like
Between
the
Continental
like the
and
Jetway, the little poster be like, winner of 5 straight Freddy Awards.
Huh,
But yeah, they all. So it's apparently an effective marketing concept.
Okay.
So we put that on like the front page of the slide deck, like winner of the best Vietnamese, American Vietnam hedge fund headquartered in Austin, 2,000 years in a row. Muddy Waters.
Question on intersections. I haven't been to Vietnam for maybe 15 years. Last time I was there, crossing the road was pretty scary. Any improvements on the crossing the road situation?
No, but the roads are a little bit better, meaning
Okay.
there's less, the blacktop surface is more functional, so there's less dust that gets kicked up in your face as you try to cross the road incrementally. But it really is like and you're too young to remember this, but the Atari game Frogger.
Okay.
So you go,
One of my
you go
favorites.
like a few feet. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could never get past the first screen, but fortunately in Vietnam, I did.
Okay, so the tactic is like just be somewhat determined and hope for the best.
No, you got to go a few feet at a time. You have to be predictable.
Okay.
Right, so best to do sober. Generally speaking, it works out.
So I've just had a really brilliant thought. Both you and my wife and Krista criticized me for not wearing a helmet on my scooter ride into work. Sounds like you were being pretty fucking reckless and not wearing a helmet, walking around as a pedestrian in Vietnam. Do we have a potential business opportunity here?
Oh.
Well, possibly, but I was going to point out that you actually might weigh more than the average Vietnamese person. So,
Wow.
the momentum of them hitting me is maybe not that, not that
I'm
bad.
actually with you because I have often made the point to a lot of more narrow-minded Caucasians that I am above average height for an Asian female. So, which is actually a pretty significant part of the world's population that people seem to ignore for all the relevant height statistics. So,
Well, it's not that significant. There's been a lot of abortions of those.
not in Texas.
Yeah, well, that's true, yeah.
So,
Not anymore.
okay, so you think we have a product, or maybe you could just pioneer the helmets?
The safety thing doesn't really sell that well in developing markets, unfortunately. When I lived in China in 2005 to 2010, I bought a Toyota Camry, and I got a driver as well at first because driving there is it's a ring of hell, which I had to do ultimately when I laid the guy off because my business was just in the fucking toilet. But in any event, as I'm getting the Camry, I was saying to one of my former colleagues at Jones Day, Shanghai, so it's very smart guy, well educated, had lived and worked in the West or in the US for a while. And that's the thing in mainland China, they're just so easily triggered by Japan. So he said to me, he's like, oh, don't get a Japanese car. Why not? They're actually honestly among the best cars on the planet. It's well, here in China, they don't build them as well because they want to kill Chinese people. He honestly believed this shit. And I was about to argue with him, but then I stepped back for a second. I'm like, well, actually, the car is moderately more expensive than it would be in the US. It does not have side airbags like I would have gotten in the US at that time, but that's because everything is covered in leather and wood. And I'm like, well, I don't know, man. Maybe it's because people in the Chinese market who are buying a $35,000 car want to pretend it's a fucking Rolls Royce with leather and wood everywhere. So I don't think that's on Toyota, bro. I think you need to care a little bit more about not going through the side window when you get hit by a car. So
There was for a few years that like knockoff Chinese Rolls Royce. Do you remember that? It was like maybe like $60,000-$70,000. They like literally took the Rolls Royce, made everything about it a lot shitter, completely ripped off the styling. It was fucking awful. I can't remember the name of it, but it really was like truly just. They could have made a nice car for $60,000-$70,000 and like, nah, we'll just make this look absolutely shit.
I don't remember that. I remember like a $15,000 BMW X5 knockoff that was somewhat popular while I was. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was a real difference, if you actually got into the inside of the car. But yeah, actually, one of the funnier things I saw happen in China. And by the way, like if you want comedy, living in a country like that when it's developing, it's just hard to beat that. But there was this one day to tell you like how just absolutely piss poor Chinese cars are made. There was one day I was in this western part of Shanghai. We're waiting to be picked up, and it was in front of this Carrefour, which is this hypermarket, and it was Friday afternoon, so bumper to bumper traffic going toward the elevated expressway. Like literally, these cars would just to go down the street. I mean, it would take maybe 15 minutes to go a few hundred yards. Like that's how shitty it was. So anyway, there was this one guy who was coming out of Carrefour, and this sounds like a pejorative to Westerners, but when you live in the developing world, like use the word peasant to describe a lot of the population. Like they're not well educated, they're relatively poor. So there was and you can tell just by looking at them. And so, no, I mean they look like they're not.
You have
All right,
peasants screaming glasses.
Well,
Clearly.
so in China, they're always like, well, that's why they're in most of Asia, they're paranoid about
Maybe we
getting
should
dark
delete
skin
that.
because if you
Right.
get the darker your skin, like the more of a laborer you appear to be.
Right.
Right.
And that's also why taxi drivers would grow their pinky nails like this long. Well, dual use. One, to pick their nose. Two, to prove that they're not laborers.
I
But
always
I
thought that
didn't-
was
is
so
that
they
true?
could get
It is true.
rhino horn sniffing
I
like
mean,
in the
how
club.
many? I did not know.
Dude, I mean, like,
I
so.
thought I was like, wow, this guy's doing
Why
coke.
have you grown? Yeah, is that, I assume
No.
that's why you grew yours long.
No, get out of here. I'm like,
So anyway, this he's obviously like, he's not well educated, he's not wealthy. He's walking across the street and these cars are not going anywhere. So there's this 20-something dude, you could tell he's a white collar worker, and he's driving like a little Geely, which costs like $9,000 or $10,000.
Okay.
Which, to us is like, it's even more of a fucking death trap than your car, your little, phone booth on wheels. But anyway, this dude, is well educated, and and he sees the peasant about to cross in front of him, and just as the guy steps in front of the car, he moves forward like a couple of feet, and he actually hits the guy on the shin, and the guy who's trying to cross the street's pissed off. He's like, ah. And the driver is just ignoring him, staring straight ahead. So the peasant came around. The car doesn't even have air conditioning, so the window's down. It's hot as fuck, and like the peasant's like kind of yelling, like, "Hey man, like why did you like I was you hit me." This other guy's just sitting there holding the wheel, staring straight ahead. Then all of a sudden he turns and slaps him.
no way.
Now, let me tell you, it's a bad idea to do this if somebody's standing outside your window and you're inside a car. You shouldn't slap somebody.
Like it was a really hard slap, like a Will Smith type of slap, like a
Well,
big.
okay, so he's sitting down and he's slapping across his body, and he's a fucking small dude too. So
Right.
like it's not hard in the sense it was as hard as he could make it under the circumstances, but it's not, Will Smith, right? So
I'm just visualizing him like sitting in the back.
So anyway, like this dude who's outside the car gets slapped. He's like, and he just starts like punching into the car. So then, absolutely bizarre and stupid move number 2. Well, I guess number 3 if you include the I'm not going to let you cross in front of my car for no reason at all as a stupid move. The driver starts opening the car door to get out to like fight. So he's opening the car door. He puts one leg down on the ground. And now this is how you know how shitty these Geelys are made. The peasant's like, oh yes, I'm just gonna slam the fucking door into your shin.
No
But
way.
it's made out of plastic. The door's made out of plastic. Like, it doesn't break the guy's shin like any normal car.
Door
You would've
deforms
just, like,
around.
You would have just like shattered the guy's shin like a real car. But anyway, he's like slamming the guy's
Instead,
shin. The guy's
he's-
able to get out of the car. And then this was a total feature of like the whole thing with like Shanghai men, like in China, they're kind of looked down upon for being very effeminate. You see them fight all the time, and it's just windmill slaps. So here
Oh
come the
my
windmill
God, this is
slaps,
so-
and then the cops show up. And anyway, it was good fun watching it. But when I saw that, I'm like, wow, that guy was slamming the car door into this dude's shin, and it didn't even phase a guy who I'm going to tell you was not the roughest looking dude I've ever seen. So.
Does he look rougher?
Oh,
You should,
yeah.
you should see the fucking doors on the
Fred-
Range Rover.
Freddie could totally flex on this dude. Freddie could
Wow.
absolutely flex on this dude.
Yeah.
So it's like part female.
So he was probably above average height for an
Oh.
Asian lady.
Okay. Okay.
Speaking of which, with your recent travel to Vietnam, did he have any special requests this time? I know you're always sorting out these
No, he did not.
special requests for him when he
He
travels
didn't.
places.
I was
no?
just happy that he got
I
there.
mean, like the special,
That's it.
Oh, yeah?
the special masseuse. You mean? Like,
No,
don't make it sound like
no,
that.
I don't know what it.
The pillow, like, you know, he turns up at hotels. Do you have my special pillow? Like,
It's
I brought the pillow with me.
oh.
No, actually, but I gotta tell you, the Park Hyatt Saigon, their service is so good. It is so good. Not only did
did
they
tell me
figure
that.
out my visa thing, because I actually didn't have a letter that I was supposed to have, they were able to get me a letter in 45 minutes when, you know, like,
Honestly-
you never told me I needed that letter. You
No.
said get the $60
because
and
Rod
get the
told
best-
me you didn't need
Well,
it.
maybe you could have checked.
You
He's,
gotta check the checkers.
Yeah.
Well,
So anyway, they sorted that out before I even left. That was great. But so just I left the pillow there. I'm not going to bring it back. It came compressed and whatever. I
always
left it there.
leaves.
So they emailed me like, "Oh, dear Mr. Block, we have found a pillow. Would you like us to hold it until your next visit?" Like, really?
Wow.
Like, if it's not too much trouble to keep track of it, okay. So they supposedly are going to do that.
Dude, I gotta tell you, I think
Meanwhile, they're
Vietnam
gonna
has
piss on
really
it.
sold you.
I
Because
know,
if it was a
that's what I'm
Chinese
saying.
hotel that said, they'd be like, absolutely fucking not. Of course they're not gonna hold the pillow. But Vietnam, you're like, oh yeah, of course they're gonna hold it in my special
I
place
know, I'm
when
thinking
Carson
myself.
comes back. But that's
I mean-
good to know.
Well, look, it's a great loyalty program, right?
True. What
like,
about-
we'll hold on to your shit until you come back.
You could do that with the printers. I mean, you have probably bought
I
and
know,
left
I
more printers in any
I'm like, what do you
room
want me to do with the
than
printer?
anyone-
And
he has-
like all
he has
the like, you know,
very specific requirements. It cannot be a wireless printer. It
just
must
leave it
be,
for them. I'm
yeah,
like, huh?
yeah.
Right, it has to be the kind that connects by USB because those wireless
Has to be
things
laser.
always-
Has to be
always
like
break.
all this shit.
No,
The color.
I like to think that I'm contributing to the education of the
Yeah,
children
just
of
leave it to them.
the housekeeping staff.
I think you are singly responsible for HP actually beating numbers ever at any point in history. Like, because they're like, seems yeah, that'll be the Carson block bump. We've got another 6 printers out this quarter and cartridges and all sorts. So, yeah, look, if Carson is staying in one of your hotel rooms, there'll be a printer left if you look hard enough.
That's true.
So look, while you're away, it wasn't just interns and fun stuff. Move some business ideas forward. Now, Puba is not progressed as I want. Masa is not returning my calls, even though Adam Newman's able to raise money again. So that's pretty fucked up.
You got to change your look because as far as Moss is concerned, Adam Newman had that look first, and he wants it back.
Okay, fair. Well, look, guys, I'm wearing shoes today,
Yeah.
so I'm making progress. A16Z, if you're interested. But a friend of mine actually pinged me, and it turns out that someone has gotten a little bit closer to the Puba idea. It's swimming pool rental. I can't remember the name of the app, but basically, you put your pool on an app, and people kind of pay to come round and use it. And I think that's fucking disgusting.
Right. I know because I'm thinking like to use it for swimming or as a bathroom.
Right. So that's the thing, right? I'm thinking oh, so you.
Wow. Fail and
Oh.
set sail. Fail. Oh man.
So
California.
So I think that's like kind of fucking disgusting because like obviously you're gonna turn up like they're gonna be like, oh you're like, yeah, I'm here to use the pool, and they're like, you don't have your swimming trunks, like don't worry bud, I'm still paying to use the pool and Pooba hasn't been invented yet. And then like the other thing is, what if someone's like skinny dipping or like making out in the pool, like doing some really weird shit? I think
That's what chlorine is for.
So anyway, I think like maybe if people are prepared to do this, you could come swim in the pool first, do a little Pooba later. No one's gonna notice.
Or just for shits and giggles, do the Caddyshack thing and throw a Baby Ruth in there.
Oh,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, you remember that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one business idea that's moved forward. But lo and behold, there is a novel, brand new business idea, and it's kind of a COVID recovery play as well. So I had lunch with a pretty well-known activist short seller who I think for the now wants their talent to remain anonymous. But
You never told me how he knew you were in New York or vice versa.
He bumped into someone who was like, oh, so-and-so's in New York. And I was like, oh, so I messaged him. I was like, I hear you're...
Okay, it's not a good story.
Not a good story, no. Not like, I met him at a bondage dungeon or something, like a cool story, like if we worked in regular finance. Anyway, so...
VC.
VC. Oh,
Yeah.
no. Well, just that one Sequoia partner, but he's not a partner anymore.
I mean, I love, like he left her on the floor bleeding.
Yeah, from anal sex. Anyways, so we got chatting. I can't remember what it was, and then he was like, Joseph. I was like, oh yeah, like the musical, and then he started to like, oh Joseph and Sons, and he was like, oh, how'd you know that? I'm like, dude, it's a.
And if I were there, both of you guys would have me lost.
Yeah, again, because you don't know anything culturally significant. But, he was like, oh, so, like, what did, like, yeah, you're really musical. I was like, yeah, not really. I'm pretty
Your
tone
people
deaf.
are so musically talented.
Yes, exactly. So there I was, and he was like, yeah, I was, like, in a choir, and then I did this, and actually, like, my family's pretty musical. And I was like, all right, well, I played the violin and the drums, and it got me thinking, Short Seller the musical, because actually... Short sellers are a pretty interesting bunch as like a group of characters. Now,
Are they though?
I'll tell you what. If you go to like a finance event in New York, all right, it's some of the coolest fucking like best looking people you've ever seen. It's literally like
I was at the wrong. I worked for Citigroup, so like,
oh, okay, yeah.
Well, they're like third tier, so
Yeah.
that's why.
Exactly.
They don't get the first tier looks.
Yeah, but like like all these fucking like P guys, they look like they're like Louis Bacon. I mean, that guy looks like his jaw was like made from like the same stone as David. They're just like fucking handsome, right? So
I'll tell him you said that.
you should. I once shared a ski instructor with him.
He'll find it creepy, but yeah.
Yeah, or it'll be a real boost for him. So anyway, you look at a short seller event, and there is one every year where someone rents out AT&T Field, and I got to tell you, it does not look like a group of models and athletes. It's probably more akin to describe it as like from a distance. You could say it's like some sort of like support group of some kind for like an ailment. We're not a cool looking group of people, but
like a motley crew.
Right, but like some really interesting stories, like, fun characters, a lot of humor. Like, I think it would make a great fucking musical. I'm thinking this is something we could work on together because you actually have a background in this, right?
True.
You.
What is your story background?
I don't. Look, it's really nothing that interesting. I'm just a theater major.
I mean, it's more interesting than how he came to like sit down with this guy to have dinner. So, go ahead. Like the bar is pretty low.
No. I mean, I'm a theater major, and maybe you have a possible.
Okay.
Maybe.
So you thinking like you'd star in it, you'd direct, you'd do the music?
I do the music for it.
Okay. So, all right. Let's. All right. We didn't plan this conversation out at all.
No.
So I want to ask you, What part does Ben Axler play?
Oh.
Okay.
See, that's
Is he musical?
Just looking at Ben, I'd assume not. If I think Ben's character would just be a beige wardrobe, and it would just be there. And he
Okay.
wouldn't really think about it.
Now
And
what about Soren?
Soren?
these are good
It's
questions.
interesting.
Yeah.
What about you?
We know I'm not musical.
Yeah.
But,
Would
not
Soren be?
true.
Would Soren be musical?
well, if Ben is
I
the
mean-
beige wardrobe, is Soren like, something red?
It's a good question. I think is Soren something red? Soren could be. Do you remember that Addams Family thing? Just the kind of was it red like a Cousin It or something? The kind
Yes,
of just
Cousin
red hair thing.
Huh.
Yeah, I think that could be Soren's
Soren,
kind of
okay.
character. Look, modestly, I like the idea of James Franco playing me and just being naked the whole time. I think that no particular reason. I just think that'd be good. Yeah. What do you see your role being in this?
Non-musical, strictly. I mean, I'm not on this train, man. The
Okay.
whole
You don't think
short
so?
sellers, the musical. No,
Okay.
man. I didn't play the violin.
What-
I don't know what was the name of the thing you were, whatever.
But you're
that-
good at
Joseph?
rapping.
You don't
Joseph,
know.
I don't know what that is.
You're a good rapper.
Yeah, that's true. I can
Yeah.
rap.
He
okay.
can rap.
You could do some rapping.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a good rapper for a white guy.
I'll
For
drop
a
some
white
of that
guy,
shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people said
From
the same
Jersey.
Pretty
about.
fly for a white guy.
Yeah.
No, I didn't say that.
All the girls say.
Yeah. This is where the douchiness begins.
Yeah.
And it never ends.
It never
Yeah.
ends, actually.
Well, anyway, from our douchiness.
Yes. What about the HSBC guy talking about climate risk?
All right. Yes.
I mean,
Well, what
that's a
were your
good
thoughts on
segue.
that?
Come on, that's a good segue to it.
Yeah, it is. It's just if you didn't make it so obvious you were reading the board when you did that, like it would
Do
have.
you know what it reminds me of? Did you ever see the Ali G film where they're doing the interview and he goes, "What about the NASA?" And he's like, "Do you mean the NHS?" Yeah, the NASA.
What?
You have to read it. Don't
Okay.
worry.
Well, yeah. No, Ali G, that stuff is great. I love when he went to the UN and he's like, "Oh, Michael Jordan sits here." It's like, no, that's Jordan the country. And then like, after he looks at the placards for these different countries, he's like, "But for real, why all these crap countries get a say?" And like, and lo and behold, we would, a couple decades later, have as the leader of the United States somebody who echoed that exact sentiment, but took it to the next level
Yeah,
with shithole country.
true.
But anyway, like back to the HSBC. But this was truly awesome. Like this was so subversive. It was great. So there was the FT put on a conference a couple of weeks ago about, I guess, like climate change and finance, and this guy who's got somehow, it must have been handed to him involuntarily, got the role of like CIO, something like CIO of sustainability or chief sustainability officer at HSBC. He gets up there and he's like, "Look, I'm going to explain to you why climate change is not a financial risk." Okay, like that's the point of this conference. And so and so from Deloitte, who was just up here, was talking about it, and Gordon Brown earlier. Like, I get that you don't get airtime. People don't pay attention to you unless you sound hyperbolic. But really, this has gone off the deep end. It's like, so, let's look at this here. What we're talking about in terms of relative risks. It's like, Target just dropped 25% last week because they missed numbers, okay? It had nothing to do with climate change. That's a financial risk. And so he just lays into this. And then he also talks about how when these, when all of these bodies, produce these estimates that banks are going to be, underwater in their loan portalios, no pun intended.
CS could only dream of that.
Yeah, right. Like CS is not going to, live long enough to see climate change like make a dent. I mean, just to be clear. But But he said what they always do is they always assume this really low rate of return on the fixed income portfolio. So he's like, it's pretty easy to like destroy a bank if you take away all of its fixed income returns in its portfolio. But it was just brilliant. But of course, then like the climate woke mobs came for him, and HSBC suspended him, which is probably just like a pit stop on the way to getting fired. And I was saying, like, I wish we had budget. Like, I would hire this guy as our chief climate economist. It was just so beautifully subversive, and I'm not like opposed to the climate, but it was
You
great.
kind of are, though. I mean, you're just about to take delivery of a new car that's not super fuel efficient.
I mean, I just took delivery.
Oh.
Oh yeah, he already
I
got it.
The
Oh, okay.
Cayenne Turbo.
Yeah. What are you doing? Like miles to the gallon? Like 4?
It seems like it. I filled it up on Monday, and somehow just driving maybe about 20 miles so far, I've gone through I think about an eighth of a tank. So
Are you doing that thing that I do a little bit, where like maybe this is just because I am a bit of a dickhead, like because the car's powerful, you're like, okay, how quickly can I get off the lights and get up to 35 miles an hour and then slow down?
well, of course. I mean, what's the point of having like a 500,
Yeah.
50 horsepower car if you don't
My
do
wife
that?
fucking hates it.
Well, so I've got 2 kids. My daughter loves that, and my son's like, "Why'd you do that?" For this exact reason, He's always telling me how much like money I waste on cars, and it's just like. I don't know, man.
Pales in comparison compared to his education.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, you want to know the real like use of money around here? It's fucking having YouTube.
Exactly. Cool. Well, from the real world into the metaverse.
Yeah. So I read this article the other day in Business Insider, and Business Insider does have some excellent journalism. Right? They do break some interesting stuff. But otherwise,
this one.
Well, okay, but otherwise, like Business Insider is a lot of pandering to Gen Z, right? Like Gen Z porn. So I mean, almost every story that I get a notification from on my phone because I have the app is about like the Great Resignation. But a few days ago, they had this article about a female researcher, who went into the metaverse for the first time, puts on the Oculus and goes into the metaverse to conduct research. I'm sorry, I don't know how to feel about this article, okay? Like, so she, maybe this part needs to be cut, I don't know. She's in the metaverse for a few minutes, and she basically gets like, raped in virtual reality in the metaverse. Not
Did you
raped,
read it?
sexually assaulted.
I've not been in the metaverse.
And so
Oh,
it then said
God.
that this has happened to a few other female researchers. Like, they were all researchers, and I'll explain why in a moment. Like, I totally believe that. Over the past, like, blah months, ever since they launched Meta.
So are they going in, like, when the press, like, go in a conflict area, they wear, like, press on the flak jackets?
Yeah, I don't know where
Are they going in, like, is their
So their
avatar got
avatar-
research, and, like, all the other, like
Like, does
male
their
avatars
avatar
are, like...
look
Well, no, because they go into female avatars, I
Right.
guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, but the thing is, so reading the description, that this one woman, who was the subject of the article, she made it sound like it was kind of traumatic. Because, like, her like controller is vibrating, like,
Oh my
every time
God.
she's like,
She was confused.
physically, like, has physical contact with one of these people, or like, not people, like avatars. But let's call a spade here, right? Like, there are very, very, very few people on the planet who are using the metaverse and have Oculus, okay?
Well, now I have to go use it. I'm like,
Well, yeah. Well,
I finished that article and I'm like,
it breaks down into 2 categories. Okay, the 0.02% category is researchers. Then the 99.98% category is angry incels. I mean, who the fuck else is going to be an early adopter of this fucking thing besides angry incels? All right, now, like, I think there should be red flag laws for guns in this country.
Yes.
And if you're like, whoa, how do we figure out who to put on the list? Those guys. Every fucking dude who has bought an Oculus and uses this shit is like the first to go on the red flag list. I mean, so anyway, but it's just like, what more do you need to research?
And they had, I wouldn't mind, they had like the creepiest ad, right? Facebook like put that like
it wasn't
super-
creepy. So
I don't
well,
see
it
the
wasn't
ad.
So they were getting hit with all this bad publicity, right? The Wall Street Journal had that series of articles from a whistleblower about how they'd done this research on how Instagram is ruining the lives of teenage girls, and they just decided at Facebook, like, bad idea to do that research. And so Wall Street Journal started breaking this. And then the next week, Facebook's in full-on damage control mode. It's like, just change the name. We're now Meta. So it's like, okay, when you go and, hopefully people will forget we were ever called Facebook. And, when you Google Meta, you're not going to find these articles anymore. But then they put together these commercials for the Metaverse. And they were the lamest fucking things, right? They've got 4, like, young, cool, non-incel looking people. I think 2 girls, 2 guys.
Researchers.
And they're just, 2 researchers and, 2, like, future incels. And, they're just sort of, like, bobbing their head to some non-existent music as they're filming and looking around. And, like,
And,
they're just
and
all
you
these...
say you're not musical.
That's good. That's better than your head nodding. We should show highlights of that in your past Muddy Waters video clips. But anyway, so then, they play some music, in the commercial, and they end with the slogan, "This is going to be fun." And I'm like, this is so obvious, right? Like, Facebook is probably the most capable marketing company that has ever existed in the entire history of humanity. And the slogan is, "This is going to be fun."
Right.
Like, that Mark Zuckerberg is like, change the fucking name. Like, what do you want? I don't know, Meta. And so they're like, okay, well, we're going to make the commercial quickly. Yeah, go make the commercial. Mark's like taking a shit, like wiping his ass. Like, Mark, what's the slogan? Oh, fuck. This is going to be fun. I don't know. And, like, that's what made it in there. So
I think the question is, should they have had like a little disclaimer? Like in the infomercials, like for
They have disclaimers.
like diabetes, and then like the rest of it's like a really horrible disclaimer. Should there be a little disclaimer, like research is showing this is actually going to be pretty rapey? Like that's the question.
Yeah.
Well, is it more rapey or more incel-y? I think it's more incel-y because like the the researchers hardly show up.
True.
I mean, but then how many of these incels like show up in the female avatars just to get raped? Like, no, I'm serious. Like
That's a good question.
That's an incel move, right? When these dudes play video games and they're always like the hot female avatar, that's also a total incel move.
Then one woman said that, her voice was recorded and this guy was jerking off or whatever. And I'm like, how does she even know that?
Why
Like,
was her voice recorded?
I don't know. I don't know like that.
Dude, no doesn't mean no in the metaverse. You might as well just not say shit. Like, hit the power button, like disconnect the fucking cable. I don't know. Like, it's not like real world sexual assault.
Right.
Just
No.
stop treating it like it is. I guess
No,
that was how I felt about the whole thing. It's just.
And then someone was like, this affects our human rights. I mean, the article is, I'm sorry, it's hilarious.
They're not
I mean,
humans.
like,
Right.
what is
human
happening? I
avatars.
know.
They're fucking graphics.
I know that's what's
it's
great.
I mean, PS, right? Like, going back to as soon as they were able to network video games and you have these massive multiplayer games, I mean, they're like, people are shooting each other and like, chainsawing each other's limbs off. I mean, like, this is not more
Right.
offensive than
Right.
being like shot in the head. I mean, if that's not traumatizing enough, like, or if that's not traumatizing, I don't know. Like, I feel like this is a little bit too much.
What do you think?
Like just a little too much complaining on this one.
Yeah.
Well, the world has not been any better of a place since you left for Vietnam. But before we wrap up, I was feeling kind of bad the other week. You mentioned it was your birthday. We've worked together for a long time, and I hadn't gotten you anything. And it's
You didn't.
actually,
You weren't behind the DOJ indicting Bill Huang on my birthday. You didn't tell them that was.
I didn't,
did
and
you?
I wasn't, and and I'm just there thinking like, all right, is that the best I can do for a birthday present? Bill Huang being indicted, and it's actually your wife's birthday as well today, so I thought like, I can tie this all in and get you guys both presents. So I'm gonna head off now to go and get the present. I'll be back in a moment.
Okay, well, it's instantaneous while
Yeah.
you leave, and we'll just cut this part out.
I thought he had it. Huh? He's not prepared at all.
So you know what it is. Okay, I'm guessing this is Robbie Williams. Okay.
He's not guessing. He loves the song. That's what's so
Everyone
funny.
loves this
I
song.
know, but he won't admit it.
It's the greatest fucking
You
song.
won't admit it. You don't like the song. You're like, who the fuck is he? By the way, I brought Robbie Williams up in Vietnam. Even they didn't know who the fuck he was.
Well, what do they know?
That's not for you. That's
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 for
right.
you.
It's my wife.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So. All right.
This is
Well.
really-
And for you?
Thank you. Oh, sorry. There's more. It just blended in with the wrapping paper.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yes, man.
All right.
So-
Yeah.
Wait a second. This is Roger Moore playing James Bond.
Yeah, that is
Dude.
it, Robbie.
That's Robbie fucking Williams.
Is it? Oh my god, I thought the same shit.
How does this guy get laid like a rock star? I'm not considering getting laid
Look
like
at
in a
how
hotel bar.
fucking handsome that guy is.
But he's not a rock. This is a rock star? You fucking kidding me?
Da-da-da.
This is a rock star?
He's fucking. He's
I
an
mean,
entertainer.
This is his concert T-shirt, and he's wearing.
I'm
He's wearing.
loving Angela.
Well, that was his last
And he's
concert.
wearing a suit and a bathrobe on his like,
That is cutting edge
concert tour shirt.
couture, Carson.
Now you're gonna upset him.
Well,
You're not. Why?
thank you.
I expect to see you both wearing them together at our karaoke event next week.
And do we have a karaoke event next week?
Yes.
For reals?
We
Yes.
Is my father
For
coming?
us.
Potentially.
Oh.
Does he do that?
Well, no. but he's arriving today, so I'm just kind of wondering if that's part of the
Sure.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
I
bring
mean,
why
you
it.
want
not?
somebody who's far less musical than I am.
Huh.
Nice.
All right. Well,
All
Well-
guys.
on that note, again, if you can't smash and grab or otherwise swim with the big dogs, just fail and set sail.
Nice.
Cheers.